Good afternoon, all. Welcome. If we could just go through the safety briefing for this afternoon before we start. Hello? Ready? Hello? Ready? Yeah.
Welcome to Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. You are located at the CLR James Auditorium. There are no planned drills today. In the event of an emergency, you will hear an alarm. Once the alarm is heard, please proceed to the nearest exit, either to the right of the stage or to the back of the auditorium, making a left as you exit the stairs. Once outside, you are required to gather at the open playing field, and only when the building is cleared by the college's safety and health team, you would be invited to re-enter. Washrooms are located to the right side of the stairs as you exit the auditorium, or to the left of this stage. Be reminded that this is a no-smoking facility. Eating and drinking are not permitted in the auditorium, and do enjoy your stay at the college.
Thank you. May I ask us to just rise for the national anthem? Now, I'll excuse my voice, it's a bit cold, so I'll have to sing a bit. Yeah? So if you would sing along with me. All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Forth from the love of liberty, in the fires of hope and prayer, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, islands of the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race finds an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race finds an equal place, and may God bless our nation. You could have a seat now. I know probably my voice either keep people awake or send them asleep. So, a good day today. Very good. I would like to firstly welcome our specially invited guest, Dr. Joseph Ishmael Khan, International Project Practitioner, Mr. Nigel Bagwatsaran, Program Dean for Project Management at Cipriani, all other staff members in physical, all other students, ICU, and online, our PMISSC colleagues as well, I say welcome to you. So, how are you feeling? Good? All right. So, our theme today is the only way out. Delivery of project management in Trinidad and Tobago. The only way out. And I have the privilege to introduce some of the guests in a few minutes. But my name is Dwayne Antoine. All right. I am your moderator this evening. I may partially join the panel as well, all right, as well. So I'll be probably double duty today. So we welcome you as well and everyone. So how we'll go, each member of our panel will have 5 minutes to introduce their perspective of project management locally, all right? I will start off with 3 rounds of questions while I sit with my guests as well. And then we'll open questions to the viewing audience physically and then online, all right? So, without further ado, now, many years ago, coming from engineering, I had some questions about project management. I wondered if I was in the right field of study at the time, coming from having a mechanical engineering background. I must say there are few people who help enlighten that knowledge to me in project management. And this feature guest is one of them, especially how we apply project management, not just in large business, but in small business as well, small, medium enterprises. Dr. Joseph Ishmael Khan is the chairman of the board of directors of the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago and its subsidiaries. Dr. Khan is an international project management practitioner and business development strategist with over 2 decades of consulting, facilitating and lecturing experience. Dr. Khan leads and collaborates on development projects and strategic planning intervention in Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Jamaica, Barbados, Belize, Bahamas, Grenada, Suriname, Germany, France, and Spain for private and public sector organizations and international agencies such as Inter-American Development Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank. Dr. Khan is also an adjunct faculty with the Project Management Department, Faculty of Engineering and Department of Creative and Festival Arts, Faculty of Humanities and Education for the University of the West Indies, and Arthur Lockjack School of Business. Dr. Khan holds a doctoral degree, DBA, in management with the Australian School of Business, Adelaide, South Australia, a Master's of Business Management degree and postgraduate diploma from the Henley Management College. Certified Associate Welding Inspector as well with the American Welding Society, and a fellow Mechanical Engineering Technician's Diploma from the San Fernando Technical Institute. Dr. Khan is also a project management professional, certified project consultant, certified ProSci change management practitioner, and certified Agile Scrum Master. And we welcome Dr. Ishmael Khan. Our next featured speaker today is a man of the soil, one in the family, one in the home. All right. I met him some years ago as well with bursting passion for education and project management. I remember that very fondly. Mr. Nigel Bagwat-Saran is a senior lecturer at the program dean for project management studies at the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. Whilst he serves on varied strategic projects and the college's strategic and academic levels, Nigel also supports organizational entities with management resilience and training competencies in realizing the benefits of their project portfolio. In addition to his diverse project management experience, he contributed formally to the national agenda, serving as a director on the board of directors of the National Entrepreneurship Development Company of Trinidad and Tobago, also known as NEDCO, from 2015 to 2023. With strategic oversight and company-wide projects such as organizational structuring, restructuring, technology transformation, and auditing and finance. He holds an MSc Educational Leadership from University of Leicester, an MSc in Information Systems Management from the University of Greenwich, and a BSc in Information System and Management from the University of London. And he's also certified in Project Management Qualification from the PMI. As a reflective practitioner and lifelong learner, Nigel, Mr. Bagwat-Saran, is completing the final year of his doctorate in educational leadership in higher education with a research focus and unwavering passion for change management and leadership. Nigel has a professional as a professional in contemporary organizations, has a personal service philosophy of organizing his program towards the empowerment of others in a results-based management framework, anchoring by creative problem solving, change management, and high accountability towards achieving organizational resiliency in a volatile space. Let's give a round of applause to our panel members. We are deeply honored to have them here. All right, so I will maybe start with Dr. Khan first. You could give your perspective on project management locally, and then Mr. Bagwatsaran.
Thank you, Derwin. Good afternoon, colleagues, those online, and of course, here with us in the audience. Nigel, thank you for having me. And of course, to all the management and staff of Cipriani College. I mean, just based on what you read, I think everyone realized that project management is my passion. It's something that I eat and sleep and breathe, and you know, everything for me is about managing projects. And I've always seen, you know, projects and project management as a strategic competency that everyone should have. It doesn't matter what sector that you're in. And you know, there's a practical link between strategy and bringing strategy into reality. And for me, it has been that the link is the projects, the project management, being able to conceptualize, being able to design, being able to, you know, formulate, and of course, implement projects is something that we all need to do. I mean, when you look at the Trinidad and Tobago landscape right now, to drive economic and socioeconomic development, much projects are in the pipeline. And therefore, you know, the ability to lead, to direct, you know, to ensure that we account for project delivery is very important. So it's something, you know, that you should have in your toolkit all the time. And, you know, being able to manage projects strategically requires a mindset change, moving away from what we call the triple constraint. You know, a lot of times we just simply talk about being able to, you know, deliver projects on time, within budget, within scope, and quality, and so on. But that may be good, but I think we have to change the conversation or move the conversation to successful and even to great. How do we become, you know, and deliver great projects? Because we see, again, in the Trinidad and Tobago landscape and even regionally, if we look at infrastructure projects, sometimes we, you know, build infrastructure and it becomes, you know, white elephant. But that structure would have been completed on time, within budget, within scope. But what about the ability to use it? What impact is it having? You know, it is just there. You know, for a facility to come into being, it meant that it would have had a problem to be resolved, a need to be addressed, or an opportunity to exploit. And therefore the question really moves from just outputs to outcomes and impact. And therefore I think project practitioners should have that sort of mental frame that we are not just, you know, delivering buildings or bridges or schools or agriculture development projects or renewable energy projects. We are really the drivers of change, all right? And that's why it is so important, and I noticed, Nigel, you also have incorporated change management in your whole practitioner's philosophy, right? So for me, project manager, if you want to be able to deliver, if you want to be able to translate strategy into action, if you want to be able to get things done, if you want to be able to deliver on your mandate, deliver on your strategic agenda, project management is the way to go. And it's something that we should be eating and sleeping and breathing and so on, you know, and that's what I do. And, you know, just to add, even at the level of corporate governance, there's a room and a space for project management. I mean, as you indicated, being, you know, part of a board of directors and so on, it is very important to manage governance on a sort of project-based approach. The way that you manage even meetings, time boxing your agenda items, and that's basically agility. So one has to be able to juxtapose the principles and practices of project management in everything that we do. All right, so I believe that you're in the right space. And for those of you who are really taking it to the level of professionalism and certification, I think that's the way to go, because we need more professionals in this field of project management, not just holders of qualifications, but people who could deliver projects within a certain quality standard and ethical practices. And that's another aspect that I think we need to be focusing on: ethicality and the principle of efficiency and good governance. Yeah, so that's some of my opening remarks. Thank you.
Yes, well said, Dr. Khan. Mr. Bagwatsaran?
Thanks very much, Darwin. I would like to say good afternoon to the entire team. I am told that over 150 persons are viewing online on our YouTube channel and Facebook Live. So thanks very much for the opportunity. Dr. Khan, it's an esteemed pleasure to share the podium with you, a stage with you. As Dr. Khan said, we must be able to eat, sleep, and practice project management. When someone asks me, what is project management? Project management for me is like the 8th wonder of the world. Don't ask me what are the first 7 wonders. It's just something that you need to do. It's a skill set that you need to have. It's a process that you need to follow. Project management is that results-based approach towards getting things done. Whether it is a particular result that you are aiming at, or a product or a service, whether you are drafting a strategic plan, whether you are erecting a skyscraper building, whether you are doing the Shogunas Highway extension or the Tobago Airport, or repairing a sinkhole in front of Grand Bazaar, projects are before us. They are everywhere around us. Even this event is conceived as a project. It has a clear end, a clear start, right? A clear plan, clear procurement, and a risk framework. So projects are everywhere. Too often when we think of projects in the construction sector. But projects, are in every space. Public sector, private sector, the manufacturing space, that service space. Yeah? As Dr. Khan said, I see project management as from strategy to that tactical layer, right, to that implementation framework to getting things done. Now, project management has become highly critical in the last, I would say, in the last 5 to 7 years, right, just before that COVID-19 era. About 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the price of oil was about 147 US per barrel, right? About 12, 15 years ago. Now the price of oil is averaging, Dr. Khan, just about 67.5 USD per barrel. Now we are being called in a space, right, to achieve more with less resources. Less human resources, less physical resources. 30 years ago, we did not have to deal with artificial intelligence and AI disruption. We did not have to deal with climate change, right? Good. There was blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. All these fads and trends and so on were unheard of, right? 30 years ago, we had geopolitical wars, but not in our neck of the woods. So how do we navigate this space? How do we get things done? How do we manage our portfolio within the organization? It is through that project management implementation approach. As Dr. Khan said, it's not only about managing projects within clear objectives, clear scope, clear quality. It is about using this tool in the toolkit of a leader, of a manager, right, for action-oriented change, to have a global impact. Whether that global impact is a socio-economical impact, whether it's a tangible outcome, whether it's cost savings or profit generation, must have a particular global impact. And the global impact that we are striving for, right, is social justice, right, a better quality of life and sustainability for the future, for future generations. And project management is the only way out. If I were to, just to relate to the research, right, if you look at the major consulting firms like Deloitte and Touche and KPMG and PricewaterhouseCoopers, They said that the only way and the only strategy that firms really resort to during the COVID-19 period to really recover and continue the resilience of their companies during that period was adopting a project management framework. Yeah, and that is trending research. Yeah, yeah, and we can see it. If we look at the public sector, perhaps I was just sharing a light moment with Dr. Khan before the formal start of proceedings. The public sector uses a results-based management approach fostered by United Nations to manage public sector projects across all government ministries and all public sector agencies, that results-based management approach. And that approach has permeated through the private sector. So the environment would have changed considerably, all right? And managers, leaders, we need a particular skill set or a tool in our toolbox, right, to get the job done. And project management is that key ingredient, that key tool that can help us do that in this sort of volatile space that we operate within. So thanks so much. Those are my opening remarks. I'm doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well said. I can't disagree myself. So that brings me to my first question to you guys. So I'll come and sit down with you in a while, all right, and join the stage. But we're living in a challenging time. When we put on the television regionally, internationally, locally, we continue to see projects as being a topic at all levels. How would you say, and anyone could answer first, how would you see project delivery adding a value to Trinidad and Tobago? How can project delivery add value to Trinidad and Tobago in particular? Anyone could go first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think project management has a strategic role to add value, not just to Trinidad and Tobago, but to the regional context. If we look at the Caribbean framework, there's a Caribbean Development Agenda, and that has informed the national development strategies of individual Caribbean territories, right? For example, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have our National Development Strategy, Vision 2030, right? And you can see that with anchoring this particular vision, there are work programs in every sector of the economy, right? Service sector, education, medicine, transport, infrastructure, energy, right? Finance, right? Public administration, public service. So project management has a clear role in each of these areas of the economy, right? At this national level, regionally as well too, when we look at the regional work program. And as we align it to these particular frameworks, you can see that project management adds to the value proposition of what we do and how we do it and how does it contribute towards change. When we look at a tool, when we ask ourselves what tool could we use to agitate for change and move in a direction of results, it is that project management framework. So it starts with having the idea. It gives us that creativity, that innovation skill set. It allows us to bring different fields and different ideologies together, right? Combine knowledge and tools and competencies from different areas and different spheres, combine it, channel it towards a direction of creativity and innovation so that we can add meaning, right, to our organizational portfolios. And in this case, our national and our regional agenda. Wow. Yeah, so it starts, for me, it starts with each and every one of us in this particular room, one individual at a time, to conceive what we do as a result area, as a product or a service, right, as a way to agitate for change and to encourage that diversity of thought, encourage the conflict, right, and let's manage that conflict and that voluntarism, right, and that effort and passion towards achieving that particular result. From an individual level, we can go to that community level, and from that community level towards the national agenda. So it is something that we have identified, right, in the recent past. We have identified that many, possibly national projects may not have, delivered, right, on their outcomes in the way that they should, right? And project management, procurement, various risk were identified. I think at a national level, we do have the capacity, right? In Trinidad and Tobago and the region, we have a high caliber, battery of project managers, right? If we come together, if we do it right, it can be, a human capital that we can eventually export. I'm sure Dr. Khan, will have some thoughts on that.
Yes, and change is the only constant. Change always happening, whether we like it or not. So I'll allow Dr. Khan to make his contribution.
Yeah, no, just to add to your, position there, I think we had to step back a little bit and define what we really mean by value, right? Because value means different things in different, spaces in terms of public sector and private sector. And when you look at the public sector way of project and project delivery and what have you, you're talking about sectors such as water and sanitation. We have, for example, WASA, who would have been doing a number of projects in relation to wastewater treatment in terms of restructuring and those kind of things. Then you have the health sector, in terms of hospitals and the use of technology, for example, health information management systems. When you look at education, in terms of building of, remember the ECC schools and those kind of things. So that's the public sector. And therefore value creation there is more on human capital development, social changes and those things. If you look at it from the private sector point of view, what's value there, right? What's the bottom line? In the private sector, they more take the neoclassical approach to doing things. The bottom line is dollars and cents, right? So I think first thing first, you have to define value and value to what category of stakeholders, all right? Because when you take it like that, I think no one is saying that project management does not have value, yeah, and isn't necessary. You know what I think the problem is? I think the problem is not having a cadre of people who really focus on delivery. Because if you are trained and if you are focused on delivery, then value optimization, value creation is something natural. You're going to get it naturally in the private or public sector. When you have a project to undertake, you know that there's a time to market window, that if you don't deliver, you can lose market share, right? And then what value to shareholders if you come in late in a project in the private sector? With respect to the public sector, you do have external forces, let's say housing. While you're taking your time to do public housing, you have a private entity creating its own block of houses and so on to sell, low-cost homes to sell at a cheaper rate, rent to own, those kind of things. So their way of delivery is going to be different. So you have to have a perspective that, one, you can lose market share, and therefore I need to trigger a certain way of managing projects and delivering. And then you also have, another perspective where, I mean, if you come in late on projects, I think everyone inside here knows about liquidated damages, right? And the implication it has also on your brand. And the implication it has on things like retained earnings and repeated, repeat work. So I think, when you consider those things, yes, project management is important and critical. Yes, project management is a value driver. But if we don't have the enabling environment and systems and people, then your project isn't going anywhere, right? It's not going anywhere. And in the Trinidad and Tobago context, I mean, we just completed our, fiscal budget and so on for 25. PSIP alone is about a little over $5 billion in projects, right, over the next couple of years or so. Are we going to deliver those projects within the time frame, within the scope? Are we going to deliver within the budget? The spending of money is not just we're spending for spending's sake, But when you have spend in the project environment, remember it generates economic activities as well. Okay, and of course, when you can do so, there's a whole ecosystem in your project environment that one has to consider. So I think the value of that project management brings cannot be overstated, you know. But if we don't view it more than just Gantt charts, scope of works, contract documents, payment invoices, I think you made the point about results-based management. So how many of us as project practitioners really move the needle from outputs and deliverables to outcomes and true impact? And to me, that's the whole, you know, value creation that you're looking at. And if you see things like that, then recognizing stakeholder engagement is critical. Consultation is important. Being able to design something that's fit for use and fit for purpose, you know, is necessary. And not just consultation at the beginning of a project, but throughout the life of the project, even when you hand over. So I think when you you really get into the nuts and bolts and the philosophy of value, and recognizing that yes, project management is critical, the management of your project takes a different shape. Yeah?
Interesting. So much challenges hinder project delivery. So much, just as any profession, we always have to deal with challenges. What are some of the top 3 challenges? Any one of you could go first that you think, I know you mentioned it before, we mentioned some, but some of the top 3 challenges we have in the proper delivery of projects in Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Bagwat's on you. I see a smile with it, so we like to go with that, yeah.
Sure,
at least
sure.
top 3.
Thanks very much, Derwin. I just want to go back to Dr. Khan's, salient point on value creation. Yeah, I think it's very important to recognize what is that value the project is ought to deliver, right? Is that value a tangible value? Too often we think in terms of dollars and cents, that neoclassical approach, reducing operating costs, profit maximization. But what about intangible sorts of projects? Projects, that has a profound socio-economic impact. Projects that generate jobs, that generate livelihoods, that build community, that build civic engagement, that encourages social mobility, right? These are the types of projects, that have, for me, a profound impact, right? In addition to, those dollars and cents projects. So what is interesting to note is that what I have seen in the past, couple of years is that, private sector, crafting their work programs towards not only tangible projects, but the intangible goods. They have recognized within that spirit of corporate social responsibility, they have recognized that value add. So I think that's a really, really strong point, creating that enabling environment to create that value that we spoke about. The problems, that plagues project management within Trinidad and Tobago, why you give me these hard questions? Dr. Khan. I would say, I won't couch them as problems, right? I would say they are more shortcomings. Right. I think there's a caliber of competent project managers, right, within the region. I think over the past 15 years, we have accessed training, competency-based frameworks on project management, right, that have really augmented our profile, right, in the region, locally, as well as, within that Caribbean space. But if we look at the macro environment, 30 years ago, we didn't anticipate, right, that the macro environment would have changed at this turbulent pace that we are seeing now. There are so many critical factors before us, as I would have mentioned in my opening statement. We have AI disruption. IMF has predicted by the year 2030, 40% of jobs, right, will be disrupted by AI. Christian, right, shared that statistic with me, right? Our industrial relations expert, our HR manager. right? We have climate change before us. We have geopolitical wars before us, right? Then we have, this need to do more with less. So the space requires creativity and innovation. The space requires creativity and innovation, thinking outside of the box, thinking within the box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yes.
Good. How do we, add utility to everyone's daily lives? It is through project management. But coming back to the key question, I think whilst we have recognized the value add with project management, somehow we are a bit focused on the tangibles, right? And with the tangibles, we sometimes, forego the techniques and the structures of project management. Right? Conceptualizing what is the project and what is the project out to deliver. Defining that value, as Dr. Khan, right, would have stated. How do we identify that value? What is the value? What are the KPIs? Who is the target audience? Right? What problem are we trying to solve? Too often we think of the solution, the problem that we are trying to solve. I believe that if we spend 80% of the time focusing on the problem and defining and reframing the problem, only 20% of the effort will need it on a solution. Yeah?
Yes.
So I think, too often we do not drill on the problem enough. What are the causes of the problem, the effects of the problem, what are the enablers, who are the stakeholders, what are we not able to do as a result of this problem, right? And I think in the space of project management, we don't spend enough time, right, drilling on the particular problem. Yeah? That's one. I think whilst we have project management practitioners and coordinators, right, and project planners, there's a need for more training. There's a need for more training in particular area.
Agreed.
Right? When I say more training, not necessarily the certificates, the diplomas, the degrees, the PMIs, and so the industry certifications, but more tacit training in the field, more internship sort of training, so that your students, graduates, project managers can live right the theory and the practice together in the field, right? I think, and I would just say, managers, leaders, whilst they have their particular skill set and their role as accounting officers for the organizations that they manage, sometimes, they fall short of the project management tenacity, right, to get things done, right? Proposal development, planning, time boxing, right? But at the same time, training, empowering staff and holding staff to account. And all these are some of the softer skills within project management, some of the business acumen that project managers need to have, and leaders and managers need to have. Yeah? So I think there's a myriad of problems, but immediately, if you ask me, right, what is the top problem and what is the major issue or challenge, I would think most institutions, the lack of a project office or a project management office, right, as a central conduit to execute project is lacking, right? Too often we have our line managers, our functional experts, and so they are caught up, right, with their particular work programs, right? But many of the dilemmas that face organizations are cross-cutting, right? Right? And you have functional managers, line managers often thinking, departmental inputs and outputs, right? But how departmental outputs serve as inputs to other departments. This is where, a project management office or a PMO, as we say, can have, a particular role to play, yeah? So I think in terms of faster planning, faster delivery, faster value creation, I think that's an issue that we need to confront. And we have said a lot.
No.
And I have buy into Dr. Khan's time.
No, that's fine.
No.
I just chime in on that, Dr. Khan.
I've been practicing project management probably 25 or 27 years, somewhere there, right? And I mean, we can go on and list problems or whatever you want to call it, problems, challenges, issues, you know. But you know, one could also see them as opportunities to, you know, to develop. But, you know, if I have to put certain categories, we have challenges as it relates to people. We have challenges as it relates to processes. We have challenges as it relates to policies, right? So those three, and of course more, yes, but for now, those categories. As it relates to people, I mean, I could list a couple things there, but for my audience this afternoon, the challenge I have seen and I'm having with people as it relates to project management is poor ethics and poor ethical practices. Some that actually, to me, is bordering on corrupt practices. And sometimes we accept these things. So sometimes we don't have a speak out or speak up approach because we toe in the line, right? And the challenge is how many of us will do so, will speak up and speak out. Because, yeah, you talk about education and training. Many of us inside this room, we are certified, trained, and all those nice things. We have one of the best bachelor's program in Trinidad and Tobago from Cipriani. And we have many, many people here, even online. You know, a lot of people looking at us online, and here I'm questioning or I'm saying ethics. But you think deep down inside you and ask yourself the question, am I talking foolishness, right? As it relates to contract management, how many of us really, when contractors are not delivering what they're supposed to deliver, how many of them we really write in accordance with the FIDIC contract as it relates to performance, and how many of us willing to terminate contracts, you know? So when I say ethics and ethical principles, not necessarily just corrupt practices, but the fact that we are reneging on our responsibility in terms of our fiduciary management and fiduciary responsibilities, right? So that's one thing I could identify. Another issue in terms of process, a lot of our processes are very much bureaucratic, whether we in private sector or public sector. I mean, right now we all trying to figure out OPR and procurement and those things. We all still learning. I mean, CTB, Central Tenders Board, was one beast. Now we have another, right? And some people not speaking out or not looking for solutions, you know, to sit and talk with OPR and say, well, these are our challenges. You know, what can we do? So there's that. I think we lack that dialogue. But going back to process, you know, when we talk about the procurement of goods, works, and services, right? The process as to how we think through who's in the market to supply these goods, works, and services. How many of us go through the process of proper market sounding or market analysis, and then realize because we didn't do that, we're not getting, we're not receiving proposals as we should. Because if you had done a proper market sounding, you will know that what you're doing should not be national competitive bidding. It really should go out internationally. You know, even as it relates to supply chain challenges, and recognizing that we should be sitting down here thinking about what are some of the long lead items we need, and therefore we need to put in the request from now. Don't wait till you're ready to install something or commission something and you're now thinking that you needed a switch gear and they actually needed to build a switch gear just for you, and it takes about 2 years to do so. You know? Just an example, right? I don't know who work in TNTech, right? But the people, the processes, so we have room for business process reengineering, the use of technology. So I'm talking about procurement. You know, e-procurement is something that we can incorporate, you know, to reduce time. The issue is time to market, right? Just to purchase sometimes a case of water, you have to go through a whole long, process of procurement, and so on. So we need to look at processes. And then in terms of policies, policies and to some extent legislation, but if we look at the organizations have policies that, just outdated. Nobody really taking them on, and that creates bottleneck in the execution of projects, right? And linking my first one in terms of poetics and policy, what about consequence management? Yeah. So sometimes we're doing foolishness on projects. We know that there's a policy that treats with it, and no one is brave enough or courageous enough to say, hey, you were found doing ABC, these are the consequences, and we're going to implement the consequence management. And therefore, when we don't do things, what's happening in projects, all you're hearing is about cost overruns, schedule delays, you're hearing about, advance payment without any sort of authorization and those kind of things. So yeah, we could list a whole set of things, but to me, if we are here today, and if we are recognizing International Project Management Week or month or year, and if we're recognizing that we are practitioners in this field of project management, where's the ethical principles? How do we uphold standards and values and principles? You don't just learn those things to write PMP. You learn those things because people are looking for professionals. Yes. Mm-hmm. And people are looking for professionals who can deliver value. It comes back to your question, and therefore we have to look at the individual who's delivering. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's how I will, put it in those categories, those thematic areas: people, processes, policies in terms of challenges. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Khan. And as I always say, it's easy to think that when we have plenty resources, we have seen countries and companies, even if you have plenty resources, it doesn't necessarily mean that your projects will be effective or it will deliver. It will add to that delivery. So sometimes it's easy to think it's limited only by resources, but project management could add value when you don't have much resources. And we've seen that there's a battle going on in the world where that now is all about resources. And it's easy to say if we don't have much resources that projects can't deliver in that case. And we've seen it now when we talk about value, even when resources is not plenty. That when we use the body of knowledge and the understanding and the science critically, it could really add value. All right? So in the essence of time, that will be it for my questions. All right? So now I have some online questions from some PMI members. So I will go physical first. All right? And open when as you get the mic, you just give your full name and your role or your title, and we'll pose the questions to Dr. Khan or Mr. Bagwatsaran, and I will join the chair there with them and maybe chime in if you want. All right? So, anyone? I'm sure a lot of eager hands would like to know. All right? Any questions?
We're also entertaining questions from our online community.
Yes. All right, so I have 2 questions so far from online while physical are here. So we have from Lisa McCrae. And Lisa McCrae, Dr. Khan and Mr. Bagwatsaran want to know, are projects generally unfunded, and does that lead to using out-of-the-box strategies? Lisa McCrae. All right, want me to repeat or? Yeah, sure, okay, right. Sure. So are projects, so Lisa is asking, are projects generally underfunded? Underfunded, and does that lead to using out-of-the-box strategies? Yeah?
Yeah, let me see if I can jump. Underfunded, so, well, I mean, if a project is underfunded, it suggests that your scoping of it was poor in the first place, right? Or it could suggest that when you develop the scope and the parameters of the project and the associated budget, things would have changed when you're ready to execute. Yes. Commodity prices would have changed, the exchange rate would have changed, most likely going up. So when you look at the funds that you have, yes, it's not sufficient to do what you need to do. And therefore, yes, you are challenged in terms of what are some of the creative funding strategies, or sometimes you may have to decide that you may just do project in phases. You know, you can do phase one with this amount of monies, and then you go back again and get some more funding. You could decide to do what is called organic growth. You know, if you have your own monies, you use your money, right? That's organic growth. You can go back out for grants, right? According to where you are. Sometimes NGOs, CBOs, FBOs, you know, they have the capacity, you know, to get grant funding. I mean, loans is a different story. If you're looking at loans from a country perspective, you have sovereign guaranteed loans, but that's a whole, you know, process by itself, and that's if government want to, you know, treat with that at that point in time because of, you know, of managing their national, you know, fiscal space, right? So yes, and of course, you're talking about creativity. So, a matter of fact, according to the type of project, you could change the type of material. You could go from concrete to bamboo. You know, if you're in the climate change and climate resilience. So yes, I think so. I mean, that's a sort of, you know, multi-dimension question, but at the same time, the genesis could have been you didn't scope the project properly, or things would have changed. And yes, you have to be creative in your funding solutions.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. I think definitely. Thanks, Dr. Khan. Projects are not generally underfunded, right? Sometimes, you know, as Dr. Khan alluded to, we might be overly ambitious in terms of your scope. And we, in project management, we tend to say that we gold plate, and we tend to overpromise. So it's very important that you step back, you look at the value that is intended, right? And you try to appreciate, you know, what might be the activities, the resources that will be required to deliver on that particular scope. Sometimes in the real world, you might be given a grant, $1 million or $2 million, and you have to align your objectives and your scope, Dr. Khan, to suit that particular grant. But as you execute, raw material prices increase, there might be a strike, there might be some unrest, there might be supplier delays, right? There might be hiccups in getting the subvention, the funding coming in an untimely fashion. And that can really, you know, disrupt the sequence of activities towards value creation. So in those instances, definitely, as Dr. Khan said, you would have to really pursue creative funding strategies, right? You may have exhausted your contingency, so you may have to go back to cabinet, you may have to go back to your donors. If your balance sheet has good equity, and so, you know, who knows, you can get some endowments based on your goodwill, Dr. Khan. Yeah. You know, probably if your balance sheet has, right, if your balance sheet has some equity on it and some goodwill, you know, you can get some endowments there. But it all calls for, you know, fiscal, you know, good fiscal management of the project, but it starts with the fundamental principles of what do you want to achieve and how we are going to achieve it and what is needed to achieve it, right? Where are we going to get the funding, the resources? Too often we think of funding as this insurmountable battle that we know that we need, but it may not be a funding issue. It may mean that you didn't scope the problem, you didn't define the problem in the right way, right? Can you reconfigure the problem? Can you implement the solution on a phase basis, as Dr. Khan would have suggested? Can you pursue organic growth, right, of the solution to the problem? So it's multidimensional. A plethora of solutions could be, you know, suggested here, but it's a great question. It's a hard one for a Friday evening.
But I want to, Nigel, I want to caution those, you know, thinking about this, because the time that you take to get additional funding, you have to then ask yourself at some point, is the project still irrelevant? Yeah. I don't know if that ever happened to you. It took you about 2 years to sign the loan or get the grant or what have you, but by the time you get the money, that project, that problem that you're trying to address is no longer there. Or it may be even more complex. So by the time you get that money is still not enough. So what you're going to do? So I just want us to be cautioned that we always have to reassess, revalidate the relevance of the project. Because I'll tell you something, not because you're getting money and okay, you still have the project idea that you run with it, because you might actually be implementing something that's no longer needed, and that's where white elephants come in. So you just have to be careful that of that.
Indeed. I think if I may add, Dr. Khan, I think the COVID-19 pandemic as well would have changed the business case for a lot of projects, especially infrastructure projects. We enter that space into online business models. And no longer are we holding physical meetings. Now it's Zoom business models and online business models and e-commerce platforms, and so you'll find that plant and infrastructure are now collapsing, and now firms are making that transition from physical to online. So the business case will have changed. So now the resource profile now changes, right? And that is something that we need to consider. Many firms are not just making that transition from physical to online, they are pursuing hybrid models. At the same time, they are seeking trending technologies in their particular space. What are the trending technologies and so on, the trending products and services, in their particular scope of works, if it's medicine or pharmaceutical supplies or manufacturing supplies or electronics. So, it's a project management, it forces you to be, Dr. Khan, a reflective practitioner. You have your skill set, right? But as you enter that project space and the project environment, you get the opportunity to practice and, in motion and reflect on your feet, because the environment for the project is changing around you. Yep, and you must have the emotional intelligence, as project managers and leaders and managers, to welcome the alternative thought, to be socially aware, right? To, control the emotions, understand how you think and others think, to read the moment and read the room, entertain the alternative thought, openly engage in the conflict, right? Towards, innovation and creativity. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Nigel. So, what I've realized as well, just for me to chime in before I take the other online question. When I started in project management, we could become sticklers for time and schedule and budget and so on. But you have to have an open mind to change. Change is inevitable. Yeah. So you would find that in the agile practice as well, that we should be able to not just be okay if the project is cancelled and we must continue and we must stick within time, but we have to understand that we're in a rapidly changing environment, especially now with technology. So that ability to adapt to the change as we build on the project should be an asset as well. So I have another question here from online, from Shamika Thomas. The name sounds familiar, right? What support can be provided for project managers locally to aid them in identifying and reporting unethical practices, or even clarification? What community is there? This is a question from Shamika Thomas. I don't know if anyone of our panel members want to take it.
Well, I mean, if the person is a certified project manager and you want to report a possible breach, right? We have the PMI. We have the PMI local chapters. We also have, of course, global PMI, where you can actually go on record and make a record, and then they will treat with it accordingly. I mean, it's in the code of ethics also. Now, from a national point of view, we also have the whistleblower legislation, but some companies also have what they call hotlines. Yes. All right, there's a hotline mechanism and so on where you can go and register your grievance, your complaint, or what have you. Of course, they will ask for things for evidence. You could be anonymous as well, and then internal audit is the machinery that then follows through. Of course, if it is a matter that's relating to a criminal activity, you have the police, right? Because on some projects you do have that. You have theft and so on, and you have to report it. So you just need to understand, that you have these areas, to do so. But I think you should also be guided by the company's policy on this. All right, what does the company policy say in terms of reporting breaches? All right, so you have things from a national point of view, you have things from a professional body point of view, you have things from a corporate point of view, and so on as well. So you have to know what space you're operating in and what mechanism is there, for reporting and so on. But then, you said something just now. You could always go to the person.
Yes.
Right, and be open to with your conflict.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, we have a question for someone physical. So you just give your name and someone first, right? So yeah, you just give your name and your title and go ahead.
Good day. My name is Alston Benjamin. Right. So I'll just get straight to the question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Right. So, I've been listening to a lot of what you have been speaking about, and one thing came to mind. Is it that you all believe that we have a challenge properly identifying or conceptualizing projects? I don't know if it's because of the type of exposure most of the persons who are in the position to identify projects are, that they may not have the type of exposure or what, but do you think that is one of the challenges that we face as we move forward?
Yeah. Anyone go, Nigel? Go first, yeah.
Yes, I'll take this difficult question. Right?
Sure.
I would say, was there a local cases that some managers and leaders may not have this project orientation approach, right? They may not have the formal training, right, in terms of conceiving a project as a particular outcome and an impact to achieve. They might be indirectly, in a subconscious sort of way, applying the principles of project management, right? And I say that from a strategic perspective. Most of these organizations has a strategic plan. And from the strategic plan, informs the business operating plan for that particular calendar year or that fiscal year, right? And you have priorities, right, for the organization. So if you were to brainstorm WASA, so to speak, WASA is in this point in time, restructuring, right, at this point in time, right? They are restructuring, right? They are doing a manpower rationalization within the public domain, right? They are improving their customer service delivery channels. They are using technology to facilitate their processes, right? They are tightening up on their fiscal management, so forth, right? The delivery mechanisms. So right away, we have about 6 or 7 projects there. These are strategic priorities on their strategic plan, and that informs their business operating plan, right? And these are particular outcomes with clear results, KPIs, and so to use to track those particular outcome areas. So it may not be a case that it is conceived as a project, but indirectly, in a subconscious, subliminal sort of level, it's being practiced. Project management. And that is why, Dr. Khan's opening statement, we are eating, breathing, right, and sleeping management, and we may not necessarily know that we are doing so. Because projects are everywhere around us. Yeah? Projects are everywhere. So great question. Dr. Khan?
One of the definitions of a project is, projects are problems scheduled for a solution. I think everyone inside here, if you go outside and you're driving from Grand Bazaar straight down to San Fernando, you will see problems and you will know the solutions one time. Yeah? And of course, you want to test the solution, looking at feasibility and so on. I don't think the issue is the identification process. I think a lot of organizations have proper identification and screening and methodologies and all those things. I think sometimes we fail in consultations, right? Especially when you're now trying to scope the project, trying to understand the user requirements, trying to understand the customer experience that you want, according to type of project. So I think sometimes we don't do the in-depth consultation And that is why, agile project management came about. Because you want this iteration, you want this adaptive, you want this always going back and coming with the client. So you get that, So at the end of the day, I think we all recognize that we're not really aiming for perfection, but we're aiming for something that is, to some degree completed and have usefulness. And then you come back with version 2, and version 3 and so on. So I think that is where the so-called failure takes place. And I think what happens too is that we don't scan the environment enough to recognize that, hey, we had a change here, Let's put some brakes on this project here, You see that highway thing? Are being recorded?
Yes, you are.
Right? We need to change strategy here. But sometimes because of the season that we are in, and let's be real, sometimes we're in a political season that a project has to go. It has to complete. I mean, we all see those things. That's not a secret, right? Yes, and it complete. But how many people is in? Let's look at the Couva Hospital. The Couva Hospital only started to get used when? COVID, right? What about all the stadium and so on that were built for Cricket World Cup? When it started to get used? You all remember that? No? But the point I'm making is that sometimes, but for certain expediency, we complete it. But really and truly, if we were true to thyself, that should not have continued. So to answer your question, I don't think the issue is being able, there's a gap in identification and screening and so on. I think it's a follow through, really trying to understand the requirements and also being mature enough to know when things have changed and design has to change, even a facility. You're building a facility and you realize that now the facility is being built in an aging population, and rather than just having steps alone, where's the elevator or where's the ramp? How many of us wise enough to make those changes? So I think that is one of the gaps, really, I would say.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. Can get a better answer. Right, so we have another young one. Yeah, go ahead, give your name.
Good evening, my name is Jeremiah Beckles. I have 3 questions. My first question is, what advice would you give to young project managers? Would you allow the advice you give them, would you allow them to follow trends or use innovation? That's my first question.
Use trends or?
Innovation.
Innovation. Sure. Use trends or innovation. Advice to young project managers. I think that's the first part of the question. I would say get as much experience as possible. Right? I would say conceive what you do as a project. Right? If you have to refurbish your bathroom, if you have to put up your Christmas tree, right? Good. If you have to, do some outdoor work, refurbish your home, right? If you are working within the community and you are assisting with the community Christmas street, conceive that as a particular project, right? Conceive what you do as a project. That, right? You may not have access to the industry immediately as a secondary school leaver or as a young person. Until you get access to the industry, conceive what you do as a particular project. Yeah? I would say whilst you study and you pursue, short courses, the PMI, the CAPM, and so PMP, and so, you get the experience. So you get a chance to actually live in the practice and live the theory, right? And live the concepts, right? In motion. Experience is very much valuable in this particular field. You can work on 1 or 2 projects, but that third project is going to be totally different. It might be in a totally different project environment that you are unaccustomed to. What I have seen in practice is that you have project managers with their skill set, but in the field of project management, project managers are moving towards and being morphed towards subject matter specialists. So you might be managing a project in the health sector or in the energy sector, right? Yes, you have access to subject matter experts, engineers, your architects, your doctors, your pharmacists, your technocrats, and so, but you yourself must do your self-discovery, your research, right, and get yourself a career in a particular field, right, so that you can be able to understand the jargon if you are to implement that jargon. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me add to that too. It's not an either or, right? Trends versus innovation.
Yeah, yeah.
Certain environments, certain types of projects, you have to look at trends, you have to do some forecasting, you have to make decisions. In some projects, you have to be innovative. You know, you have to look at different ways of doing things. You have to look at, you know, incremental, innovative strategies, right? But advice to a young professional, read. Spend time, because, you know, to be honest with you, I think we all hustled to finish degrees, and we really didn't finish reading the chapters
Yes.
for a particular course. So sometimes when you come out of the school now, when you start to work, you have to get back in your books.
Yeah.
You have to read, right? You have to volunteer. Look for opportunities on projects, and it doesn't even have to be a project related to your field, because at the end of the day, fundamentally, project is about people. You need to learn how to lead, how to direct, how to speak, how to present, how to be confident, rather, you know. So you look for those things, right? Because, you know, sometimes as a project manager, you have to go and make a presentation on a report. But, you know, by simply doing little work in your church, in your mosque, in your temple, and getting opportunities to chair, right, and so on, all those things build your skills for when you have to go in front of PS or chairman or CEO, right? So volunteerism is very important.
Definitely.
You know, getting yourself in clubs, professional, you know, clubs, as I meant, you know, NGOs and those kind of things, right? Yeah, say clubs and you look happy there, right? So those things, and sometimes, to be honest with you, and when I started my career, the amount of things I did for free.
Yes, yes.
Just to get my foot into, you know, in getting an experience, getting an exposure, you know, and today, you have to pay me plenty money, you know.
Thank goodness, Dr. Khan, you came at the college on goodwill.
So another interesting question online. We have some questions pumping in, guys, online, boy, plenty. So this is a good one. In what ways do cultural attitudes in Trinidad and Tobago impact project management practices and stakeholder engagement? This is from Akila Duncan. Name of the song is familiar too. So, right? So, in what ways do cultural attitudes, in the context of Trinidad and Tobago, because this is what the theme is about, impact project management practices, and as we mentioned before, Dr. Khan mentioned before, stakeholder engagement, engaging with stakeholders. This is a fat one, guys. Right?
These are our students asking these difficult questions.
Yeah. Some of these names.
Yeah. It's broad as well. Probably I can take first job at it, Dr. Khan. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I have the mic, you know?
Yes.
Sure. Cultural practices. Very much loaded. A lot of issues involve viable cultural practices. I look at, you see, in Trinidad and Tobago, when we look at cultural practices, we look at perception of what are the stereotypes, you know, in Trinidad and Tobago, but that doesn't necessarily imply what is culture. Culture is, implies the values, the beliefs, the traditions, the rituals of a society, not outside of the stereotypes and the perceptions. Yeah? So don't forgive me, that's the first half of the question. You know, I'm a bit old. What's the second half of the question?
Right.
Let me
So
try to link it now.
yes, you know. So guys, can forgive me. I know I wouldn't be able to take all the questions, but I'm trying to get the
same
ones.
question, right? The same
Yeah.
question.
So the same one with culture.
Yeah.
Right. So let me find it back.
How does it influence project management?
Yes. How does it
practices?
influence project management
Yeah,
in Trinidad and Tobago?
In Trinidad and Tobago, well, as Dr. Khan said, you know, sometimes you may have projects that are seasonal, right? And we're not talking about Valentine projects and Carnival projects. We are talking about election engineering projects, right? Right, around that particular time, right? So, there's a particular, perception surrounding that. Or if an organization is going through some, some change, transformation, some restructuring, you have projects, particularly along those lines. So there may be a cultural perception of why it is being done, right? And it's now the right time for that to be done at this particular point in time. Yes, many of these projects, across diverse fields, could be conceived in a very subjective sort of manner, right? Someone says that, hey, we have to run with this particular outcome, right? At this particular point in time, we are not denying that, right? And a benefits realization is built around that, and funds are allocated, and the project takes its course. We are not denying that, right? But many of times, you have projects conceived to really to solve particular issues and challenges and problems, right, in the national space, in the community space. So there are, cultural implications there, right? Cultural implications also broad-based. They include projects that are guilty of ethical infringements, right? You may have leaders, managers, even project managers as well, to not subscribing to good values, good personal ethics. You have the PMI's ethical code of ethics, you have your leadership code of ethics and your leadership standards and so. But what about some introspection, some self-reflection? Go back to your moorings of your household of good values, saying good morning and good evening, and not doing that, right? And doing things the correct way because that's the correct way and how the task ought to be done. Let's go back to those particular cultural perceptions and cultural ideologies. Too often, in managing a project, we are often pulled by public perception, right? We are pulled by the community, we are pulled by public perception, right? And sometimes this can lead to the ethical infringements. We may overlook what is good, transparent practice. We may overlook our personal integrity in favor of the project. Or we may feel that you have this particular accountability to a higher office that it will be okay to circumvent. It will be okay, right, to circumvent and work around and get a faster or cheaper solution to the problem. And that is not necessarily the way. Right, you have to be, guided by ethics, by good moral and spiritual values, and that is all within that sphere, of, good cultural underpinnings when you are undertaking a project. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let me just add quickly. Well, first, I think that's a situational question, Joel.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we really have defined a national culture, right, per se. And I don't want to, make any statement to suggest that we have a poor culture holistically, right, in terms of project delivery. Because I think, right, I think we can identify excellent examples, both public and private sector, in terms of project delivery. So I think it's specific to the organization. It's specific to sectors and so on. And even some of the institutions that will sponsor your projects, for example, the IDB, the CDB, the EU, the World Bank, and so on. When you have projects being funded by some of these institutions, they drive a particular type of culture, right? So I think it's situational. I think we can get good examples where you see a work hard, play hard culture where it's deliver, and then it's, a time of, let's celebrate success, let's relax a little bit, But I think, yes, culture, there's a correlation between culture and project delivery. There's a correlation between culture and strategy execution. I think we all would have learned at one point in time that culture eats strategy for lunch, breakfast, dinner, and all that, right? Right? If you don't have the right culture, if the culture doesn't correlate to, a certain value system, then you're not going to get delivery, or you will get delivery. You know, so I think very importantly as practitioners, leading, whether it's a PMO, whether it's a project, you know, department, I think the question there is really saying to us, you know, we need to very much quickly establish the type of culture we want in this establishment to ensure that we deliver on mandate, on projects, on results, or what have you. You know, but there is a relationship between culture and delivery or non-delivery. Yeah. You know, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Kana, Mr. Bagwatzer, and really like this.
We have
room for one more question, yeah? So I'll take it from your audience, yeah? Sure. Sorry, online people.
Good night, everybody. My name is Kerwin Alexander, project manager for about 7 months now. My question is, well, I will give you context first. In this room right now, we have some of the most brilliant minds in project management in the country. Sitting in the front row here, some of my lecturers on the podium as well. Every year, we have graduates from different universities, hundreds, in the hundreds. UWE, UTT, Cipriani. And as Sir said before, project management or projects solve problems, right? How is it that even though our graduate rate is so high in Trinidad, and we have so much project managers that are coming out of Cipriani every year, why is it the problems that is in Trinidad and Tobago in terms of infrastructural projects and in terms of development, how are they not addressed? Because we have, if I go to choose a project manager for a project, Sir could go, Mr. Nigel could go, Mr. Coyote could go, and you are all good project managers, and the project will be a success. But how is it that we have graduates coming out of school, and yet still we have all these infrastructural problems still persisted every single year?
Good question. So,
let me just jump in there. Not because you put Derwin, Nigel, or who on a project. I mean, yes, they're excellent. It means that they're going to come out successful. Because the question will be, do they have the enabling environment to actually deliver, right? Do they have the systems in place? Is the policy environment, is the cultural environment one that they can really thrive? And I think that is something that we have to be cognizant of, because we have excellent project managers, but in bad situations. Yeah. What we're going to do, you know? And therefore, to me, it also has to go to a higher level, at the level of that executive leadership, recognizing that we need to ensure that we have the scheduling software, the analytical tools, the reporting mechanism, the governance structure, the training, the certification, a system to house all your drawings and all your, your project workbooks and those things. If you don't get that from the top, you're going to be using Excel, you're going to be using some simple PowerPoints, no sort of formats and those things, right? Now, because of that recognition, I can tell you where I sit, or where I've been sitting. I am ensuring that when we say we have project practitioners and project managers, the enable environment must be there. Because in my space, right, this energy space, Trinidad and Tobago is counting on us. And if we don't deliver, then we're going to have a problem. So if I am the so-called, strategic mind and leader, therefore I have a responsibility to ensure that those things are there, right? Now, I can tell you this, but how many others can say that? So I think that is where we have a little challenge. I think the challenge is the tone that is set at the top, all right? And if we don't have that correct tone, you can put whoever. You will not get the results that you want because you're not even getting the support that you need. And sometimes it's just lip service. Sometimes they use, agile, strategic, PMO, and hybrid, and we're working from home and we're delivering. But when you really get into the mechanics of it, you're not getting the true support. So, you know, and it's not just a Cipriani thing. I mean, when you look at other areas, you know, other areas of expertise and so on, they have the same challenge. So I think it's that sort of, you know, problem that we're having. And therefore, what I think we should be doing is all of us inside there should be aiming to be at the top and set the tone there. You know, get out from the trenches and go on the top. And I am thankful to God that I have been given the opportunity to be at the top with this project management, you know, mindset, because that's how we run things. And I'm sure that you would see some of the successes based on what we have been doing in my space. You know, every month, every week is some delivery, some delivery. You think it's by chance? It's not by chance. You know, and that's what organizations need.
Anything to add, Nigel?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Thanks, Derwin, Dr. Khan. I think, yeah, definitely the enabling environment needs to be conducive to really, you know, attract project managers and value the potential of project management. So whilst you said there are institutions that are putting out project managers, the Ciprianis, the UWs, right? But at the same time, whilst there's an increased recognition, management really needs to set the tone. But at the same time, recognize that the space is changing even as we speak, right? The space is very much volatile, uncertain, very much complex, right? Lots of stakeholders, parameters, constraints, lots of assumptions that we make in a project that we do not really test, and these assumptions might change, you know, and that, you know, really creates, you know, havoc on a project. So there's a myriad of issues there, but I do agree that within the region, not only in Trinidad and Tobago space, we do have some competent project managers. And I think if we nurture the skill set in the right way and we value it and we channel it in the right way, I think in not too distant future, it can be a human capital that we can export. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Nigel. So, guys, I wish I could take more questions, but I'm a project practitioner myself, and I have to lead by example. So, you know, coming to a close, I know we had another feature speaker who would have liked to come today, and she works on a lot of projects. You know, she got ill and so on. And by the time I work with her with projects and as well as also a MP, you know, projects continue to add that value to the community, you know, meeting the stakeholders and really solving the real issues of what's going on, understanding what's happening as you build and you grow on top, even to strategic. All right? So now we come to the close of our very enlightening session in project management. All right? So I would like to pass on the special vote of thanks, because he's better doing that than me. All right. So, Mr. Nigel Bagwat-Saran, would you do the honors? All right.
Hi, good afternoon to the entire team. Are you guys hearing me? Yeah. Mic support, right? Good afternoon to the entire team. We have come to the end of the proceedings here today, this project management seminar, and my role as the program dean is to really give the vote of thanks, right? And given a vote of thanks, you know, I reflect on what is gratitude, being thankful, and should be a cloak that you should wear in every space and carry it in every corner that you should go. That you go, you should carry that cloak of gratitude. Many years ago, I should say 4 years ago, when I met Dr. Khan in the corridor of PMI SSC's biannual conference, you know, I had the opportunity to meet him, shake his hands, you know, exchange, you know, professional notes, and I had the opportunity to listen to him in a particular seminar. Little did I know that 4 years later, I will be sharing the same podium on the same stage with him. Yeah? So I'm very, very thankful for this particular opportunity, right, to really network with Dr. Khan. Derwin made the initial contact, right, with Dr. Khan within that social network. And as, you know, that contact was made, Dr. Khan immediately, you know, told us his schedule. And so right, and its availability, and we started that planning, process, around it. In fact, this event supposed to be a webinar, and Dr. Khan, suggested that let's do it physically, right? And we were engaged and very excited by the prospect of doing a physical session here. So Dr. Khan, on behalf of the Project Management Department, on behalf of the College of Labor and Cooperative Studies, Cipriani College, we want to express a heartfelt gratitude, right, to your presence here, right? And although we operate in a time of low funding, and so we know our arrangement, if I may joke with you, is pretty much intrinsic and not extrinsic, And I know this is pretty much, a doorway and a pathway to greater collaborations between Dr. Khan as an international project manager, right, and the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. Before I express my token of appreciation to Dr. Khan, I would also like to thank, right, all members and staff of the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies. I would like to identify the audiovisual department, right, the entire team here, right, is here for this big project management seminar, right, our audio team, our visual team. I would particularly like to thank the members of the marketing and the entrepreneurial innovation department. I would like to thank members of my immediate team, Mr. Abdul, Mr. Shivan, my research assistants. During 4 years ago when I met you at the same conference where I met Dr. Khan, we met on the table having lunch. And what a better way, right, to really meet and forge good relationships by breaking bread together. And I said, Derwin, I need to get you at the college, right? And so lo and behold, right, 9 months later, Mr. Derwin Antoine came across at the college here, and he left the industry as a project manager, huge blow to the industry. I brought him on as an academic here. And also I was, 4 years later, we have Dr. Khan sitting, in the CLR James Auditorium. So we are internally grateful. I would also like to thank members of my project management department and the entire department, the entire college, right, for really navigating this event and really supporting us in this particular event. Also, when I reached out to members of PMI SAC, whilst I didn't have to ask, they volunteered to advertise this particular event, right, within the channels, right, of PMI SAC. I would like to recognize one of the board directors, Rupert Ramharak Singh, right, PMI SSC director, right. He's also a member of the staff, teaching staff, right, within the project management department, right. And I would say that in closing, well, before I close off formally, this particular seminar has raised some valuable themes. It has underscored what is project management and how project management permeates every sector of the economy of our national space and our regional space. But more so, it has led to some sort of introspection, how we can apply the principles, right, within individually in our individual community, our community spaces, and contribute meaningfully towards the national agenda. Without getting both from Derwin from going over time and managing this project badly, I would like to invite Dr. Khan, right, to the podium here,
So
well,
receive the,
right, right, for a small token of appreciation.
Yeah, sure.
So again, I would like to thank you guys, the physical attendees, the online community. Over 210 persons registered online for this event. This particular session was recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. I would like to thank you guys for spending your Friday evening with us. Right, so that's it from the entire team, Cipriani College and the Project Management Department. Safe journey back home. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a safe journey.
Absolutely.